Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the History of Fan Anime. I'm your host, William Chow, and in today's episode, another fun episode where they're talking a little bit about my road trip. And again, I just recently came back from a two-week road trip, and visited several states. Washington State, Nevada, Idaho, Wyoming. A lot of different places, and basically checked in a lot of things. So today's episode, I was in the little town of Mesquite, Nevada. Okay, and came across a small little museum and had an interesting little display. And I'm going to basically go over this display because it has a particular anime reference. Maybe the modern people just don't quite get, and so I want to go over it because it's something that shall we say the older anime fans understand and know, while the modern ones probably don't quite see the connection. So before I begin, I want to remind everyone to go down below, click like, and click subscribe, because obviously anything that interaction that you do with this particular video will definitely help the YouTube algorithm, because that's how it works. It's a machine, as it were. So again, if you have any interesting comments and that kind of stuff, why don't you just throw it below, and then you give it a sort of a quick notion on that. Okay, if you want to support me financially, I do have the super thanks button available, as well as the links for the PayPal and Patreon below. I just posted a brand new episode about customs, because obviously I'm from Canada, so every time I have to go down to Anime Expo or San Diego Comic Con, I have to cross into the U.S. to go get the goodies at the con, and then of course have to come back. So I've got a special episode again, which I talk about more sensitive topics in a more careful way. Do put that again. That has to go on the the subscribers Patreon page, because obviously I can't talk about it here on YouTube, right? So again, do check that out if you have the chance. Okay, right? So today's episode is about this particular museum I went to, and some points that I like to make about the display that they have. Okay. So without further delay, I'll kind of go over the pictures and I'll display them as I go through them, right? So, without further delay, let's begin. Okay, so just give everyone sort of a perspective here. The Mesquite, Nevada, is just just outside of Las Vegas. It's about an hour and 19 minutes out of Las Vegas. It sits really literally on the border of the Nevada and Arizona border here. Very close. And so we're going through as I was leaving Las Vegas and heading towards the Grand Canyon, and then of course later on going up to Yellowstone National Park. I passed through here Mesquite as one of the stopping points. So while we're passing through Mesquite, Nevada, went to this place called the Virgin Valley Heritage Museum. Okay, and this is a little nice, quaint sort of community sort of a museum with lots of little things of the history and that kind of stuff of this particular town. But it came across what's really interesting display of this that was in the museum, and it was of this dispute that would happen between the community and a shall I say, an adult bookstore that occurred in the particular town. And I'm going, actually, I remember this sort of event, and like again, you have to remember in back in 1993. The only way you find out about the different kinds of news and that kind of stuff, especially from a town that's not in your area, is it would have to have some sort of national sort of presence, so that some newspaper or some sort of article would have made mention of it, so that someone else in another province, even on the other side of the country, would actually know about it, right? Because otherwise you would never hear about it. But yeah, again, this is when I, of course, started having my my video store, and this sort of this conflict, this protest, sort of occurred. And again at this time, this was maybe one of these sort of articles that sort of popped up once, sort of thing, and then sort of just dropped out of the view because obviously you didn't get any constant sort of information about it from your local newspaper, because obviously this this would not generate enough interest to make another article, and maybe make it for another day or whatever in the same newspaper, because obviously it's out of town news, shall we say, right? But yes, so as I was digging through the article, and just trying to to learn more about the particular conflict, I came across better descriptions of that. Again, that's something that the modern internet allows you to do. Now, the point that I really wanted to drive through, and I've mentioned it many times during my videos, is that such a thing, this type of protest and this type of event can only occur and only does work on the one premise that at this time in 1993, the only way you could get any sort of material, whether that's on video or whether it is a book or pictures or music, okay, is you actually had to get a physical version, a physical form of the actual thing to actually watch or listen to, or to basically be able, put on TV or anything like that. You must actually have a physical something that you could purchase or rent or have in your hand. Okay, there is no such thing as a digital version, a streaming version, and even, shall we say, like an MP3 version of kind of music that you can get and have that go across the internet, or across the phone lines, as it were, in such a way that you could enjoy it from one location to another without physically actually having to get it. Okay, so this sort of picket that they've done, basically blocked people from actually trying to get access to this particular type of thing. Now, of course, I don't know why the guy was so persistent. Of course, you're thinking, you're in a place like Nevada. You're literally an hour away from, like, smut central of Las Vegas. I mean, obviously, the only other place you probably would have done this better would be things like maybe like Orlando, Florida, or something, or like Los Angeles or something. But whatever. I mean, just I'm sure he had his his means, I guess. But quite simply, this kind of thing would only occur because they had physical media. Now, this is being 1993. There's also the time where the beginning of anime sort of was starting to become licensed. So I'm sure this guy's collection, if he's had any decent collection of stuff, he probably would have had copies of, let's say, Legend of the Overfiend, for example, and he would have had some of those early, those titles from like Slideshow Pictures from like 80 Vision type of thing, right? They would have probably had things like Angel of Darkness or something, and all those those tentacle type of animes, right? In there, but of course again, requiring the physical form, the things like the ability to watch these type of things is restricted by the fact that you actually had to get a physical copy of that VHS tape in order to do so. Now, of course, when we did a lot of VHS tape trading and a lot of those things called fan subs and that kind of stuff, it really didn't matter where you were located. So I mean, if the guy was smart, he probably would have located himself in Las Vegas or something, where basically they call it Sin City, and anything would have went, right. So he could have then, theoretically got the stuff from like and sent the stuff literally anywhere, right? And I'm sure, even back in those days, I remember there were these, sort of trading circles that you could get all this kind of various different stuff. They even made a short type of documentary called the VHS Revolution, right? And this basically, touches on the topic of, the era of the VHS, really grew exponentially with things like, smutty material, gory movies, like horror stuff, and all these sort of topics and genres which are, not normally available, right? And this sparked up all this huge, shall I say, underground movement, VHS trading circles and lists and that kind of stuff, where it made it available for people who really wanted it. Then they could basically start trading it around using VHS tapes, exactly the same way how anime was done. So again, if you wanted, let's say, fan subs of anime, and again, the anime was just starting to get started here, right? There were very, very limited releases of this kind of stuff, so people were starting to get interested in it. But if they wanted more, the commercial companies weren't coming up with enough stuff, or maybe not the right kind of stuff. And so therefore, all of a sudden, this proliferation of lists and all this stuff kind of sort of occurred, and the stuff started getting passed around. And again, I just made mention of this because these two things sort of coincided, right? And this is right, basically, even though at this time I've already been fan subbing a whole bunch of stuff for at least probably like 3 to 4 years now, and I've now built up a fairly large number of TV shows. Like for example, I would have already had done Orange Road, I would have done Maison Kaku, I would have done Pat Labor, and this is just before we started getting into all the magical girl shows, right? So, that's a lot of stuff that's already available. That would be of high demand from anime fans, right? And while the U.S. market, right, was just starting, right? Like 1983 was sort of the years where a lot of these major companies, U.S. renditions and Central Park Media and Miego were just getting started, right? The first couple of titles were just hitting the market right about now. So this entire sort of this revolution, as the video comments, really got started and really would have blown open. And I guess it's just funny that when I saw this display, it just reminded me of this sort of thing, and just thinking how closely aligned that this was. And again, this guy obviously wasn't as smart as and wasn't quite in touch with the rest of the world, as it were. To realize that there's a whole other market that was out there, and this this distribution network that was out there, that was just budding and just starting to begin. But yeah, it's just an interesting piece of history that that could be added on and spawned on just these sort of evolution of events. And I just thought, even when I saw this in the museum, this would be a sort of a great adding point to this, and which is really, really, which worked out really, really well. All right, so we find that kind of interesting. Again, back in the day, I did remember this sort of event sort of happening and kind of going on, and again, because news isn't something that is really easily broadcasted unless you're in the area, unless you pick up the newspaper and you actually read something like this. It'll just kind of go and breeze over you, and you just you'll never hear about it or never see about it, and you never find out the results of it, right? But again, this had a little bit of ramification because again, at this time I was in the video store kind of industry and that kind of stuff, and I heard wind of this. But again, other than that, I never bothered to try to find any more information about it because again, With even the internet as the way it was, you couldn't find out any more information. You had to basically go to the library, and then maybe look up the newspaper or something, and they might have newspaper archives of the that particular town or whatever, and then you could then sort of read up on what's going on. And again, this is very difficult in this time because everything is still in print on paper. So unless it got distributed to you, you probably would never know about it. So just something that I remember that I came across, I remembered, and so I just thought I'll bring that forward in today's episode just to sort of give you an indication of how things operated back in this time before the internet really got kicking. Because again, this is in '93, so obviously this is even before Windows 95 even came out. So just sort of indication of timeline and age. Okay, so I'll be giving you some more stories about about my road trips and different points like this in the future. Right. So until next time, I will see you again.